I'm getting 12. I guess you're right.
Object lessons.
He wasn't impressed with Norwegian art.
Yeah, he was not apparently.
All right, industrial.
Good.
Industrial.
Okay, I'm on the air, okay. Well, welcome, folks. Good evening. And I will call the meeting to order, and would all of you like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Teresa, roll call.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Kellum.
Here.
Kopsinski.
Here.
Coburn.
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Okay, and first on the agenda is business from the public. Is there anyone here that would like to bring an item forward? Yes, Tom.
Tom Cordier, 2240 Northwest Park Terrace in Albany. It appears that you're going to go ahead with this second reading tonight from the agenda. I look at that as a failure of process. 2 weeks ago, what was presented to the council is totally different than it is today. And the document that's on the dais says that it's a totally different document because it fundamentally transformed the city's relationship with Pacific Court. And yet you claim it's a second reading. I claim it's a first reading because it's totally changed. The other issue that I speak to is the lack of transparency. This document that's on the dais, dated July 17th for this meeting, says that that the city increases the compensation paid to the city by 2%. And now, because I got some expert help, I understand how to calculate that because I hadn't digested the table that was in the first, that was presented at the first reading. So it's 2% of the $46 million of revenue. But the 2% begs the issue that my tax on my family for my power goes up 40%. And you don't disclose that. Two-fifths is 40%. And that's not disclosed. And it looks like, if I were a conspiracy guy, it looks like you're trying to hide that. And I don't think that's right to do that. Because when you say a 2% increase, people think, I think, well, it used to cost me $1 and now it's going to cost me $1.02. But that's not how it works here. And so I find that really poorly written from the taxpayer standpoint. Maybe not for the inside baseball people, but for the taxpayer, that 40% increase means something to some people. Frankly, it doesn't mean much to me. But in general, I'm opposed to sales taxes, and in particular, I'm opposed to targeted regressive sales taxes, which this is. There has been no public conversation on this issue. I would encourage you to hold hearings on this issue tonight. Ask you to start the hearing process to see if what people think about a 40% increase in their tax bill that's applied to their power bill. Please understand, I'm not saying power bills go up 40%. Please don't think that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I pay a certain amount of money on my tax, the 5%, and now that's going to go up to 7%, and that's a 40% increase in the tax that's applied to my power bill. That goes to the city of Albany. We need to have a public conversation about it, and I would encourage you to do that. There are other ways to have a very public conversation, and so I ask you to not approve this thing tonight and go the other direction and fully disclose to the people of Albany the percentage increase that they're going to, because nobody gets a 40% raise. I never did. Maybe you guys did. I don't get a 40% raise. So I don't know why it's rational to have a 40% increase in my tax for power. Don't understand it. Any questions?
Well, I do. Could you tell me again how you come up with it to be 40%?
Well, the 2% is generates about the $930,000 that Stewart's memo talks about. And my bill, if I'm paying 5% and it goes up 2% to 7%, the change from 5 to 7, the delta is 2 divided by 5, and that's 40%.
I think
That's the math. Stuart, you want to?
it might be, that might be how,
Anyway, that's what's going on.
I think it's going the wrong way, but that's okay.
It's-
Thank you.
It's not, it's 40%.
Okay, thank you.
This is
Thank you.
Okay, council, you have on the dais, there's actually the two ordinances. So the first one is the one that you took the first reading on. So this, you have the option of taking the second reading this evening and taking action on that. And then you can also, for the next meeting, is a revised version of the ordinance that you can take, have a reading and take action on that ordinance. So with that, would you like to have the second reading read? On,
I'll make a motion for a second reading of the original ordinance, not the revised one.
I'll second that. There was massive confusion in the audience.
okay, actually, we didn't have to take a motion for the second, but we'll go ahead. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I don't think we need a,
No, this is, this now I'm
second
going
reading.
to, all that motion did is it made clear which of the two ordinances you wanted to have read.
Exactly.
So I'm going to do the second reading on the July 8th ordinance. An ordinance amending Albany Municipal Code, Chapter 3.04, Privilege Tax, Electrical Power and Light Business, granting an electric utility franchise and general utility easement to Pacific Corp and declaring an emergency.
I'll make a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I do.
Rich?
I explained as best I could the other day why I was opposed to having the emergency clause. And I still, I think we should have emergency clauses only when we have a real emergency. I think we use the emergency clause too much. And, I mean, everybody, there are a whole bunch of things that we have used it for that I think everyone in the room knew that you had to have a real kind of a jaundiced view of what the word emergency means in order to have you think it was an emergency. To my way of thinking, if there's, flooding or fire or pestilence or windstorm. That's the kind of thing that's an emergency. You take, you call up Chief Bradner and have him send a fire truck over and take care of your house. I would like to see us use the system that you do it and it goes in, you pass it and it goes into effect in 30 days, because I think that is, you don't have to squirm around to say what the emergency is. And that, there are emergencies. I mean, there's no question of that. And I think that's what we ought to use this for.
We talked about that the other night, and that's what we'll be looking at, so.
And I spoke briefly with council about that, and, I mean, I think we need to fix it, and, I mean, well, ultimately, what I can do is just say no every time. I mean, but that's, I would rather it was us who did this instead of me who did this. So,
Yep.
I mean, I've had my say.
Okay.
I
Anything
tend to
else?
agree,
Okay,
but not in this case.
all right. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, and did you want to have the first reading done on the revised version this evening?
The revised version is not ready now because
Okay.
the revised version was an alternate. I'm going to have to change it as an amendment to an ordinance you've now adopted.
Okay.
So it will
Gotcha.
probably come back to you in about a month.
And I'd just like to clarify, too, the difference between the two ordinances, at least by my reading, is that there was no substantive change. There were some numbering changes between the two versions. But in terms of what they said, requirements imposed on both the city and Pacific Corp, the rate of the franchise, none of that was changed. It was-
No, to echo Mr. Hare, the difference is that in the first ordinance, it sets out the franchise by references to section numbers, but it doesn't give them municipal code numbers. And even though it proposes that it is an amendment to a chapter in the municipal code, it doesn't make clear what chapter number it will be and exactly where it will be, except it gives its heading location. The amendment makes it clear, provides the municipal code numbers, the proposed amendment that I offered, and it made it clear that it didn't interfere with the privilege tax that otherwise applies to any other utility provider who is not subject to this franchise. So I will bring back at a later meeting, likely it will be in 30 days, a new ordinance for your consideration that will put this ordinance that you've adopted tonight in the proper place in the municipal code and will make clear that the privilege tax section, which has previously applied to Pacific Corp, will no longer apply to Pacific Corp because they are operating under the franchise instead. Those are the only changes.
The other piece of information about the financial impact of this change, so that it's clear, just in numerical terms, I mean, you can slice it and dice it in many different ways, and I don't quarrel with Mr. Cordier's characterization of the percentage, other than to say that it is a percentage of a percentage that we're talking about. So that if you pay $100 a month for an electric bill, at 5%, that's $5. At the new rate, at 7%, it's $7. So on a $100 bill, you're going to be paying $24 more per year for this tax than what you've been paying in the past. I don't think we've ever, in any way, tried to conceal what the impact would be. It is, as it has been, it's laid out on people's tax bills. They can, I think most of us can do the basic math and understand what the impact will be.
It's not on their tax bills.
I mean, excuse me, on our utility bills.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Great, all right. Okay, council, we finished this item, and next is adoption of a resolution, and this is for the Lynn Benton bus. So Chris, are you going to talk about it, or Barry, or?
I'll talk, and if there
Okay.
are questions, Barry can answer. So,
Okay.
transit staff applied for funding through public transit funds for a replacement bus for the Lynn Benton Loop and was awarded a grant. The item on the agenda would allow us to accept the grant. It has not been budgeted in this fiscal year because although the bus will be ordered right away, it takes 18 months or so to build a bus. So the dollar amounts will be budgeted next fiscal year. And we have the appropriate match amount in the equipment replacement fund. So this new bus will allow us to retire an old bus and put a less old bus into backup service.
Okay, sounds good. Questions? Dick?
How much do you expect to get for the old bus?
It really depends. I don't know that we've gotten the old bus. It just depends on what people are willing to pay for it. I think right now they're mostly going for scrap costs. So, Barry, I don't know how much we got for our last one, but less than $10,000 probably. So yeah, 2 to 5 maybe thousand.
Could I buy a bus if I was so inclined?
Absolutely. You can go to the OSU surplus auction and you can have it.
Paint all sorts of fancy colors and go it further.
Yeah. So, okay.
Call yourself Ken Kesey.
So any more questions on this item, or I'll entertain a motion for adoption of the resolution on page 6?
For adoption of the resolution. Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Okay, council adoption of the consent calendar is next, and if there isn't any items that need to be pulled off this evening for discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion for adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carried. Next, professional services agreement for owner's representative for fire and police station project. This is on page 33. And who's going to take the lead on that?
Stacy
or
has
Chief?
a report.
Okay.
With her very wide open eyes.
Stacy, you had a walk-on item too, didn't you, for the Kathy Creek
Yes, I did.
vacation? You can take that up afterwards, so then you don't have to come back up if you want.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. This first item that I have on the agenda is a memo recommending that Council award a professional services contract in the amount of $275,000 to David Evans and Associates. This is for the owner's representative services for the police and fire stations project. The owner's representative services was identified in the needs assessment report, which was completed during the preliminary design phase. That was the phase 1 design services. And the budget for this service, which was included in the total estimated project cost that was part of the needs assessment, ranged from $275,000 to $300,000. This recommendation is to award a contract in the amount of $275,000 to David Evans and Associates.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
How does this compare in contrast to what we paid for the same types of services on the library?
I don't know is my short answer. I would say that there's probably, this is substantially higher, in part because you've got 2 projects going on, and because there's been a, close to a decade that's passed between the 2 projects. But we can certainly get that information to you and get it back.
The other fundamental difference, of course, in the library was simply a remodel of an existing building. These are constructing new buildings from the dirt.
More work.
And they also did our train station multimodal project.
Yeah. I don't quibble with the award of this. My issue is state statute on how you acquire the services by putting out an RFQ and reviewing the qualifications, and then negotiating with what appears to be the most competent and qualified without knowing what the price is. until you get into negotiations with your first selection.
We don't have any choice, though, do we?
No, we don't. It's a state statute. I had the discussion with Representative Olson and prior Senator Morris. Senator Morris said that he voted for that bill when it came before the legislature, but he was unaware of the consequences of what it was. And he was astonished that anybody could buy a service without knowing what the price is and what the competition is. So I object to the underlying statute. I don't object to the action we're taking. And I encourage us to continue to work with the league to try to get that two-envelope system changed, because, you know, the example I used is, would you like a new car? Yes, I would. Well, I've got one. Okay, let's talk. Well, mine's $75,000. Can you afford 75? My neighbor down here, he's got a brand-new car for $37,000. Maybe that's what you want. But you'll never know that his is $37,000 until you tell me that you're not interested in my car.
Can we pass a resolution to that effect and forward it to the legislature?
I think it's on the league's agenda that we just need to keep reinforcing and trying to bring it back. We're going to face opposition from the engineers and architects, but being good, you know, being stewards of the public money, I don't know how you, with a straight face, have those kinds of negotiations.
Yeah, good point.
Well,
Okay,
if you were to get up a resolution, I'd sure second it.
We can maybe bring that back for next year and then come back to full session and pass it on to the league. I'm sure we'd have support from some other municipalities. The league has opposed that. They argued against the bill when it was before the legislature last time, but the lobbyist for the engineers and architects was persuasive.
Well, it's been on the agenda for architects and engineers for many, many years. And Oregon actually was sort of far down the list of states that adopted it. But I mean, the league successfully fought it for multiple sessions, but I think it was 2003 that it was finally passed.
You know, absent having dollars identified in the original proposal, when I was doing some of the work that Stacy does, I made the folks that were interested in responding tell me how many hours of work they saw by task, and it was a surrogate to getting to dollars.
Oh, yeah.
But at least I knew where they saw their focus being. Did they see it as a planning project? Did they see it as big-time pre-design? Did they see it construction management? Because if their vision of what they're giving you a price for isn't the same as your vision as owner, you're going to have conflicts with that engineer. So.
Bessie?
Just had a question, Stacy, on page 34, it gives the estimated cost and estimated final cost. So apparently, phase one is complete now, is that correct? Because I noticed that everything else is the same amounts in both columns, and yet on like phase one, they're less in each one. So did we luck out and have it cost less, or?
Well, the item we have got a motion on the table is for the first item on page 33, not 34's.
We're not there yet.
Yeah,
That's-
we're not on that agenda item yet.
But I'm glad you pointed out
Same
that out.
topic, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
We'll hold it over just
Okay.
a sec. Any more questions on this motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next item. So do you want to answer Bessie's
Yeah.
question then?
Sure.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because what that demonstrates is there was cost savings with the
Okay,
Phase
good.
1 design services. There was approximately $15,000 for police and the same for fire.
that's good.
That wasn't expended.
I thought that's what it probably was, which is great, and if we can continue the,
Yeah.
concept, that'd be great. All right, thanks.
Okay, we got questions on item number 2, or did you want to talk any more briefly on it, Stacy?
I guess the only thing I would add is that this is probably the second time council has seen these costs. They were presented in December 10th, 2014. A formal motion wasn't requested at that time because we weren't awarding the Phase 2 and 3 services. We were just going forward with the preliminary engineering at that time because the funding was uncertain at that time. So now that the public safety bond has passed, staff's coming forward and asking that council formally award the Phase 2 and 3 design services to McKinsey so they could proceed with the design and construction services.
Stacy, is this a not-to-exceed value? So if their projected time is actually less, we would see the subsequent savings in Phase 2 and Phase 3 as we did in Phase 1?
Yes, yeah. All their billings are on a time and material basis. So when they
With time and material not to exceed, and we're approving the not-to-exceed value.
Yes.
Okay. And what would the council like to do with this item that's on page 34 for awarding the services contract?
I move the requested action.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made in a second, and any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carried. And since you're here, you had a walk-on item. That was the vacate a portion of Kathy Creek.
I think there was a,
I think this was handed out on the dais, councilors.
Mayor, item F is for a contract increase in excess of 10% for the Century.
Oh, is that one yours also?
Yeah.
Okay, we can take that, yep.
So I can go ahead and proceed. The request for item F, which is a recommendation that council approve a contract increase in excess of 10%. It's for the Century Drive Lift Station project. Albany's Municipal Code 2.66.040 requires that council approve contract increases in excess of 10% when they're above the originally approved contract amount. I previously reported to council that we did anticipate this project contract would exceed the 10% amount. It was due in most part with changed conditions that we encountered during excavation. It wasn't practical to pothole during design of this project because the depth was around 20 feet, so the cost just didn't really balance with that. And so this recommendation is asking council to approve this contract increase.
This is the extra concrete that they found during
Yes.
excavation, wasn't it?
Question. Stacy, is this an issue where the as-bills were inaccurate?
Yes.
Was that station installed by us or a private, or do you know?
Oh, I should know that because I was just looking at the as-bills before this meeting, but I can't say for certain when it was installed.
You know, I think that shows the value of having great as-bills. You know, having worked in physical structures, when you go to do something to modify it, the first place you go is to look at your as-bills. And if your as-bills are incorrect, everything you're going to do from that point on is going to be incorrect. So it sometimes seems like it's extra effort and extra time, but it saves time and money in the future to have good as-bills. You know, we saw the same thing when we bought the PP&L water system, or when County Service District got the Parker Grove system. As-bills weren't there, they were inaccurate, we had primary power in the same ditch with the water lines, and nothing ever showed up. We'd go to dig it, we'd hit the primary power, the backhoe would light up, you know, sparks would fly. So I'm a strong supporter that we make sure that all projects are not final until the as-bills are done.
Okay, yep, Rich.
The previous contractor that did the work, I guess I would have a concern if the previous contractor was also the current contractor. So if they put the as-bills, put it in and then made inaccurate as-bills, and then are coming back to us saying, well, gee, look, it costs more money. I mean, I think it might be something to keep in mind. I don't know that there is a method of making sure it never happens, but if in fact it is the same contractor, well, seems to me that they ought to eat it, because they're the ones that did it. But
Yeah, and that's not the case with this contractor, but that has happened once with the water line connection, that a contractor left it in a state that they weren't supposed to, and then they came back and had to connect to it. I won't name names, but we didn't pay them extra for that, so.
thank you.
All right. What would you like to do with this item that's on page 39?
Move to authorize the change.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made in a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, okay. Did you want to do your next item? The
Might as well in here. so.
Yep. The vacation.
Yep. So the memo that was passed out prior to the council meeting is a recommendation that council initiate a street vacation and direct staff to prepare an application for vacating a 20-foot wide portion of Cathy Creek that lies within the city's right-of-way. The attachment A that's included with the memo, it provides a map of the area that's proposed for the vacation. This area is adjacent to the north property line of the property for the proposed police station, and vacating this area is going to help achieve open space requirements in order to meet lot coverage requirements in the development code. Council initiated the vacation of Willetta and 6th Avenue at the July 8th council meeting. So initiating this vacation of a portion of Cathy Creek will facilitate coordinating it with the Willetta Street vacation and then also the conditional use application for the police site. It's not a decision on the future vacation. It's just a method to start the application process. Staff does recommend that any future decision to approve the street vacation be conditioned on approval of the conditional use for the police site.
Okay. Council, what would you, got questions on this?
Requested action. Second.
Okay. And any more discussion? Or any discussion? Nope, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right. We've been keeping you busy, Stacy.
Thank you.
Now, you're not the, are you overseeing the North Albany project, road project, or who's seeing that project?
That project's being managed by Lindsay Austin, and then Chris Serkluski's the design engineer that's helping. So I
Okay.
supervise them, but
So,
they're
so while you're here, I had a phone call earlier this morning, and it was, somebody had said that the contractor was dumping in concrete and filling in some areas or whatever, and some of it was with wood, and didn't think that could be for fill.
I will look
So-
into that
So if you
because,
can,
yeah, generally, we don't allow that.
yeah.
So,
Okay, and I probably still have the message of more the specific area, but whatever they were just working on
Okay.
is what was being done, so if you can check into it, but,
I will do that.
okay, thank you.
Just an observation, that contractor is working on like 6 different items at one time. The majority of the work on the field that was being done today was over excavation and putting rock down to bring the road up to the sub-base. And I think the last time I talked to folks, they were looking at potentially running curbs in the next 2 weeks.
Yes, they
Wow.
are.
So
Mhm.
Really cruising.
getting that up, there are some soft spots. The entryway to the junior high is soft. There at Quarry Road was soft. You're unaware of those conditions at the time that you begin the project. It's subject to the soils. But
Wow.
he's doing, that contractor is doing multiple things at the same time, and if some of the utilities would get out of the way, give you even further.
That would make it a lot easier,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
I did have to see a Knife River concrete truck sitting on the bridge decking, so we know it's going to hold a truck.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah,
All
okay.
the original
Thank
beams
you.
of the truck.
Okay, next item is, this one is for work under the intergovernmental agreement with the Lynn County Sheriff's Office. So Jorge, were you the one to
Yes.
lead on this item?
Good evening. What I'll be presenting is the conclusion of a process that we work with the Lynn County Sheriff's Office on coming up with an evaluation and recommendation of a vendor to replace our CAD RMS system, CAD, computer-aided dispatch and records management system for both police, fire here in the city of Albany and Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. So this is kind of the conclusion of that phase one, and here we're going to be bringing back a recommendation. There's multiple jurisdictions that participated in the evaluation of this process, and I'll take you through some of the process that we went through. Why are we working on this project? We needed to upgrade our computer-aided dispatch system. It's at about 25 years old right now. The other issues that officers encounter is that when they enter information for a particular case when they're in the field, sometimes they have to enter it more than once, the same information, 2, 3, 4 times the same information, just to be able to populate some of the modules that exist within the system. It's not compatible for us on our side in the city of Albany with Windows 8.1. And it's a concern that has been brought up by budget committee members and council during the last year or a couple of years now. Now, there's other main reasons that we need to move away from the old system. One is that the Oregon Uniform Crime Reporting, or OUCR-1 format, it's expected to retire by the end of December of 2016. And by 2017, we need to start using the new format, which is called NIBRS. And the system has to be, it has to support this kind of a format for law enforcement agencies that are reporting. Areas that we evaluated through this process were 5 different areas, and the first 2, the first one is just looking at all the user and system requirements from both LCSO and the City of Albany. We had about 4 different sessions, 3-day sessions, for each one of these vendors, 3 days of going through demos, and then we had each individual team from the different agencies evaluating and scoring these. So there's, when you see the scores, it'll be one table, but there's hundreds and hundreds of data points that come up and aggregate for us to come up with a conclusion and determination of this process. So the way we decided to divide this is the user and system requirements will be 30% of the weight in terms of the decision for this process. The ease of use was 20%. And then out of the vendors that we had, there was 4 vendors in total. We decided to take only the top 2 through the other process, which is vendor interviews, reference checks. And then the cost was also included for all 3. This table here demonstrates the pointing score system and how we actually divided this. So the 4 vendors that were involved was PSSI, CMI, SunGuard, and New World. And the first 2 areas that were evaluated were the requirements and the ease of use. We decided to cut the lowest 2 vendors from this process and move forward the top 2 vendors. And in this case, SunGuard and New World moved forward. They had the highest scores in terms of system requirements and ease of use. In terms of cost, the vendor that had the highest score was CMI, and that's why they got the 25 points, because their cost was lowest. It was about $200 and something thousand. But it did not meet the requirements that the agencies were looking for, nor it met the ease of use for them. It was an inexpensive system that might be used for smaller agencies, but for a multi-jurisdictional approach that we were taking here with all these agencies, it would not meet. So for that reason, it didn't move forward as well, just based on these 2 areas here. SunGuard was the second one in terms of cost, the least cost out of the 4. And they obtained 6.74 points on it. Like I said, this is representing hundreds and hundreds of data points in terms of how we got to this, and I can share that with anybody that would like to see those. So based on this process, the team is wanting to recommend that SunGuard be the vendor based on the highest score and the process. It was a 5-month process to be awarded the contract or be awarded the letter of intent for a contract between LCSO and the vendor. In this case, we are being an agency that we will be contract, or we have an IGA with LCSO. LCSO is a vendor or the agency contracting with the third-party vendor. Now, budget impact. The forecasted budget for this project is $1.3 million, out of which LCSO portion is about it's actually $684,000, and the City of Albany is $616,000. And the difference is because they have more terminals on the field, and they have more consoles on their 911 dispatch center. That's why their cost is a little bit higher. We also have some uniqueness between both entities. LCSO has a jail management module that we don't use, therefore they will pay that 100% of that module and the implementation costs. On the other side, the City of Albany has the firehouse module, because they don't have a firehouse module in LCSO, and the City of Albany is responsible for $130,000 for that module. There's other additional costs that don't go to the vendor. This is the cost, the $968,000, and that's the cost to the vendor on the initial quote. And this is the two portions that satisfy that cost. This number on top is adding the additional costs like IT infrastructure to run this new system. That's going to be divided 50-50 with the Sheriff's Office. And there's anticipated additional module integration that once we bring the vendor to do the first week analysis, that might need to get on board in terms of adding additional modules. And then the undetermined cost at this time is overtime for bringing police and fire personnel to train on some of these systems, and some additional training for new modules that we might identify as we learn more about the system. So the action that we're requesting is for council to approve to continue to work with Lynn County Sheriff's Office under the existing IGA to share in the purchase and upgrade of the City of Albany and LCSO CAD RMS and correction system. And the City of Albany is planning to fund this project out of the IT Equipment Replacement Fund, Jail Code 217-13-1301, as a loan to APD and the Fire Department. A 10-year loan, and the percentage, Stuart?
For internal loans, we've usually used the pool rate because that's the interest that would be earned otherwise, and that's currently 0.54%.
Questions?
Questions of Jorge? Yep.
Has Lynn County already seen this presentation, signed off on it?
Yeah,
Time?
I was today with the
okay.
the Sheriff's Office, and we were meeting with the commissioners, and Commissioner Nyquist and Tucker were there, and they approved to move forward from their side.
They had discussed it last week.
Okay. Any questions?
Move approval.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
I'd just like to make clear that I think Jorge's presentation was pretty explicit, but that the council is approving the expenditure of 600 and whatever the number was, $615,000 as our share of the new CAD RMS system, for the record.
Yeah.
Question?
Yes.
What did payoff end up being, the length of time?
The total payoff?
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm not being clear enough. Payoff via savings.
And I don't know if, I haven't made an attempt to capture what the savings would be on efficiencies.
Because it should be substantial. When I did the ride-along, 2013, he was talking about having to populate 3 or 4 different forms, and actually, it was 5. I mean, you had to have one for, it was a home thing, and there was abuse, and the guy drove up there in a car. I mean, it was a number of things and probably spent, I don't know, an hour out of the shift doing that. I mean, it doesn't take long for that to be a full officer.
Oh, yeah.
I think the honest answer is, Rich, is that we didn't do that level of analysis because you've got multiple agencies, all of which have different savings. But of course, the other problem that we're up against is
we have to make a change by 2017 anyway, so we didn't do that level of looking at it.
Yeah, but that's correct. That is, there's a large savings because of time and officers not having to come back sometimes. That some of the work they actually do in the car instead of coming back and do it in the office.
Okay, there's a motion made and second. Any more discussion?
Call the question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carried. Thank you, Jorge. Okay, next is an appointment to Human Relations Commission for Denise Hughes Tappan, is it? Tappan? And this is Councilor Kopsinski's new appointment to fill the vacant position from Debbie Berg. So I'll entertain a motion.
Move for the appointment.
Second.
All right, and any discussion?
Question.
Uh-huh.
I noticed she is from LBCC,
Uh-huh.
and also the chairman of the committee is from LBCC. Is there verbiage in their charter that says that they're supposed to be spread out, or does it make any difference?
Not on that. For our Human Relations Commission, the makeup of that committee, no, it doesn't state anything about somebody's employment.
Well, whether or not you
Yeah.
have a whole bunch of people from the same place, so you don't get groupthink. But anyway, there isn't.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, it didn't. I mean, that's something the council can always add and change to a board or commission makeup, but this would qualify as is now.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Next is Marilyn, you did up the report, thank you so much, on our November and December dates for the council since it changes around the holidays.
I apologize for getting this to you so early, but it seems insane, but people are already talking about it, so let's just, might as
no.
well face the music.
No, it's not too early, it's nice to get it on our calendars, I really appreciate it, so the calendar gets very full. Council, is this something we really don't have to take action on? It's just if you end up having any questions over any of these dates, now the time's to bring it up.
I already plugged it into my calendar.
Okay. Yep.
I was gonna say, I have no idea what I'm doing in November and December, so,
That's why we do it now.
this is fine.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, this is
It
fine,
helps
so
me
I'll just,
tremendously, and I just always appreciate it, because years back, we had to have meetings around the holidays, and I like ahead of time, we adjust those 2 months, or we
Yeah,
can
it
all
is
get
nice.
holiday time off.
You will have a full month off, in fact, a little more than a month between the last meeting in December and the first meeting in
thank
January.
you.
Yeah, so, okay, I won't, I always have fun events to do, so, yeah. But, okay, no questions on that, then thank you, Marilyn.
You're welcome.
And next is business from the council. Bessie, anything this evening?
Well, I just want to mention that the newspaper article the other day about our new e-plan system.
That's good.
And, you know, how well it's working, and also how much money it will save in the future. And so I just want to commend staff in getting that implemented, and it sounds like that major contractors are the only ones that are using it now, but it's going to be available for like the smaller business people in the future, or if they just come in and talk to you about it, they can probably have a E-Plan 101. But yeah, thank you. I think it's going to be a great savings for the city. Thank you. That's all.
Great savings.
Okay, Bill?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, Dick?
Nothing.
Okay, Rich?
Nope.
No, Ray?
Yesterday afternoon, we had a little over 2-hour meeting with the Albany Visitors Association and 3 hoteliers. All of them were invited, 3 of them showed up, as far as the ongoing process to get things rolling and trying to make some decisions going forward. Very, very positive. Sandy Roberts was there from the police department, talking to them about how they can improve some of the issues that they've brought up. A couple of them weren't aware of some of the things that the police department was able to do. A lot of information shared about ongoing promotions, new ones to come up, and they came up with a laundry list of things that they're going to be trying to do, and then finished off by basically scheduling another meeting probably late October, early November, to keep that process going. And it was a good meeting. So.
Glad to hear that, so, yeah.
Oh, the hoteliers that were there, let's see, it was Value Inn, Best Western, and La Quinta were the hotels that were there.
Oh, okay, interesting, yeah. Okay, thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thanks. Floyd?
No.
Okay. And the only thing I have just came to my mind is we had all taken the trolley ride over to the carousel and saw how far along they are on their capital campaign, which is just looking very positive. But as we took the trolley, our trolley, so Chris is needing some work, so we kind of noticed the exhaust needs some work, and then a couple seats were loose, but I know we have kept that.
A couple of seats were really literally
Yeah,
unhinged.
it's been used a lot this year, so, which is great. We want it to be used a lot, but maybe if you can kind of put it on your radar that it might need a little bit of checking out. So, but, yeah, thank you. Okay, that's it. Wes?
I just had to share this story. I don't know if counselors had looked at the report this month from AFCAF, which is the firefighters fund, the Firefighters Assistance Fund. And every month they publish comments from citizens about sort of quality of service. How did they feel about their ambulance ride? And I noticed in reading the report this morning that there was one person that was asked what they thought about the service that they received, and they said, well, it was, a little slow. It was really expensive. Thank you for saving my wife. that was the best one I've ever seen.
That's a good one.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I don't think I've seen those reports, on that, so.
Where do we see that?
Yeah.
I'll forward it to you tomorrow.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. That's it? Okay. Any staff have anything else? So, no? Okay. All right. Then our next meeting is work session August 10th, and regular session is August 12th, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.